Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Go and check out the great GSMC Podcast Network. All types of different content, business podcasts, financial podcasts, news, breaking news, sports, NFL, NBA, MLB, hockey, college, everything you can think of, book reviews, movie reviews, we have it. It's all across your platform networks where you can get them, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, you name it, you can find it. I am your host, Kayvon Izami. I hope everyone's having a beautiful, beautiful Christmas week. That is right, we are at Christmas. We're at week 16. Holy crap, time is flying by. It really, really is, but it's a miracle. You know why? It is a Christmas miracle because we have made it to week 16. And not many people believed that we were going to be able to do that. Also, not many people believed that we were going to be able to make it to week 16 without having canceled any games at this point. That is tremendous. That is well done by the NFL. It is well done by the players, by the coaches, by the staff. And I know I keep saying this over and over, and I sound like a broken record, but it needs to be said. This is a pandemic, ladies and gentlemen. It is so easy to contract this virus. We don't know anything about this virus. The incubation periods, you test negative, then the next day you test positive. It's crazy. So the fact that we have been able to have every single football game, and nobody has, yes, players have gotten COVID and been near COVID and had to, social distance or had to miss games themselves because they were due to the contact tracing and all that stuff. But overall, luckily, then you knock wood, thank God, no one has been severely ill. Nobody has died. Of course, we're talking about in the NFL landscape, and that is something we should be very thankful for, because it's sad what's happening out there with the amount of people that have passed away and have gotten severely ill. So in terms of the football landscape, it really is very impressive, the fact that we have made it to week 16, and us fans should be very, very grateful to all of the NFL players, coaches, staffs, administration, all these teams for being able to get through this, being able to put a great product on the field for us, and having something where I can come on here and talk about every single week, twice a week, and you guys can debate it with me, and you can debate it at your jobs, and you can debate it with your friends, because I don't know about you, but I would have been absolutely miserable if we didn't have an NFL season. So it's fantastic that we have gotten this far. I love it, and now I can't wait to finish the regular season and get to the playoffs. Yes, NFL football, NFL playoff football is right around the corner. There's so much to dive into because there's so much that has to happen still before we get to the playoffs. There's still so many spots that need to be clinched in both the NFC and the AFC. Right now, we have a couple of teams that have clinched. The Buffalo Bills have won the AFC East for the first time in 20-something years, so congrats to Josh Allen, congrats to the Buffalo Bills organization and the Buffalo Bill fan base. You guys deserve it. The long wait has ended, and I'll tell you what, you have a terrific team, by far the second best team in the NFL now that team in Pittsburgh has completely fallen off the rails, which we are going to get into in just a minute here because I have a lot to say about that. And Josh Allen has just become a tremendous quarterback. You got to give a lot of credit to him and the work ethic he's put in. You got to give a lot of credit to Sean McDermott and the fantastic coach that he is. A lot of credit to that front office, Brandon Beane, the general manager, the talent that he's brought in. The trade for Stephon Diggs has been really, I mean, what Stephon Diggs, the connection that him and Josh Allen have already kind of made in a year without an offseason, all that is pretty remarkable. And then, of course, you got to give credit to Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator, who deserves a head coaching job. And really, if I'm a team that has a young quarterback like a Sam Darnold, let's say that now that the Jets have lost out on the number 1 pick, let's say they decide to keep and stay with Sam Darnold, I would be looking to bring in Brian Daboll. After we saw what Brian Daboll has done with Josh Allen, because remember, what were the question marks, quote unquote, that everyone had about Josh Allen coming into the NFL? He's got a rocket arm, check, right? That's great. Really, he's athletic, good stature, he has all the tangibles, all that stuff, but his completion percentage is low. And usually it's very rare when you see a quarterback in college with a low completion percentage to be able to then transfer to the NFL and have a high completion percentage. Usually it either dips lower or it stays about the same. Well, the first year or so, Josh Allen was not able to bring that completion percentage up, and he was following that norm, that norm of, low completion percentage stays low. Then, really, Brian Daboll has worked with him and has completely changed that whole thought process of what was going to be Josh Allen's weakness and possibly his downfall. I mean, his completion percentage has jumped up. His accuracy has jumped up. He's a really athletic quarterback. He can throw it on the run. He can throw it in the pocket. He can run for the first down, run for the touchdown. He's become very special. He's become a very special player, and if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you guys should be very happy because he is the real deal, and he's going to have your franchise in the playoffs for many years from here on out throughout his career. So congratulations to you guys for securing up the first NFC East title in a long time. Now you play the Patriots on Monday Night Football, a team that is already eliminated, so maybe you guys have a little extra incentive to kind of stab the knife in a little bit deeper in their dynasty run of 20 years now that you guys are on top. That will be very fun to see. It's kind of like a passing of the torch game, even though I do believe Bill Belichick will be able to get this team back on top eventually, but it's going to take some time because they have a lot of issues and a lot of needs, especially on that offensive side of the ball. So that will be fun to see. And then just the Steelers, they have clinched a playoff spot, but my goodness, it's good for them that they have, because I don't know if they win another game from here on out. They look really, really rough, and we're going to dive into that in a second. Kansas City has clinched as well, so 3 teams have clinched in the AFC. In the NFC, the Packers have clinched, the Saints have clinched, and the Seahawks have clinched. Rams with a very disappointing loss to the New York Jets, an embarrassing loss to the New York Jets this weekend, something we will dive into after I stand up here. Of course this happens, right? I stand up here and I give them all the praise in the world. I call them the best team in the NFC. I said they're the most complete team. They play the best defense. They know how to run the ball. They have a great coach. And what do? You go and lose to what we were all saying was the worst team in the history of the NFL. Like, come on. I stand up here, I give my takes, I put my reputation on the line for you, Los Angeles, and this is how you repay me. I'm very disappointed in the Rams. I really am. And Sean McVay, for the genius that he is, he's starting to fall into that Mike Tomlin trap game narrative where man, they'll be showed up ready to go for the big games, right? They play Seattle this week. I guarantee you they will play Seattle very well, and I bet you that they even beat Seattle. And we'll get into that on Saturday because that might be one of my best bets. But in the games where you look at the Rams and say, oh my goodness, this should be a whooping, right? They should dominate this game. We start to notice that they don't show up for those games. And they either have to get away and end up winning by the skin of their teeth, or they end up losing like they did on Sunday to the Jets. And you're starting to kind of see that trend happen with the Rams under Sean McVay, like we have seen with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. And not saying, Mike Tomlin is a fantastic coach. I mean, he's never had a losing season. And Sean McVay is a fantastic coach as well. But these are little things that I'm starting to catch on. And it's going to be interesting to see how Sean McVay turns that narrative around. And Jared Goff, look, he needs a lot of blame for this too. He was horrendous on Sunday. He really was. Could not get the ball down the field. Was throwing it to the Jets left and right. The run game, Cam Akers started to get going. He had 2 touchdowns called back because of dumb holding penalties. So they were just not themselves. They clearly overlooked. It was a sandwich game. That's what it was. You hear people all the time talk about situational football, right? Where teams are looking ahead. And I usually try and stay away from those narratives because I always like to think these are pros. They take one game at a time, but they're also human beings. And it's hard to overlook when you see, okay, we have the winless Jets here with 2 weeks left. They've packed their season in pretty much. And next week, we have the Seattle Seahawks in a game where if we win, we most likely will win the division, or we will win the division. So they were clearly overlooking the Jets. They were preparing for the next game against Seattle, and the Jets came in and said, look, we've been playing hard. If you look at the Jets, the last 3-4 games, they have covered the spread. They've played teams tough. They almost beat the Raiders if it wasn't for a terrible call by Greg Williams. One will go down as one of the worst defensive calls ever. Then they went to Seattle. They started out the first half tough against Seattle. Then Seattle opened up and blew them out. And then they went into Los Angeles and they played them very, very tough. And they won the game. And look, congrats to Sam Darnold. Congrats to Frank Gore. Congrats to my buddy Braxton Berrios. Congrats to all those players because they deserve a win. They're a bad football team, but you never want to see players have to go through a season like they're going through. They've been put in a terrible position due to the team wanting to tank, due to the bad coaching of Adam Gase, just the horrendous coaching all year by Adam Gase. Sam Darnold's been banged up all year in and out. Their wide receivers have been banged up all year in and out. And I get it. A lot of fan bases, a lot of the Jets fans, and they're going to sit there and they're going to be really, really mad that they won this game. And you know what? I would be really mad too if I were you, because you lost out on a generational talent. I mean, look, Justin Fields, he might be great. I need to do a little bit more scouting on him first. But I'll tell you what, Trevor Lawrence is great. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a Pro Bowler, a perennial Pro Bowler in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. He is going to be really, really good in the NFL. So the fact that they missed out on him, that sucks for the future of the Jets. It really does. Now there's so many questions. What do you do, huh? Do you try and keep Sam Darnold and trade down? You have so many holes that you need to fill in this roster. Maybe you trade down. Maybe you already have 2 first-round picks because you got from Seattle when you traded Jamal Adams. So maybe you trade down, you get 3 first-round picks, and you build up this roster. Or do you trade Sam Darnold and do you draft a Justin Fields, a Trey Lance, a Zach Wilson? What's it going to be? Those are the tough questions that the Jets now have to decide when it was going to be automatic Trevor Lawrence number 1. Put the pick in right away and let's move on. So I get why the Jets fan base would be furious. I would be furious. One of my great friends, Sean White, shout out to Sean White. He is a massive Jaguars fan, and he texted me screaming in joy. I mean, I've never seen this guy so happy because his Jaguars just landed the generational talent, Mr. Sunshine, down in Clemson, South Carolina. They just got Trevor Lawrence because of that Jets win. And now the Jaguars are going to have a phenomenal quarterback for year in and year out, while the Jets are still going to be in a precarious situation. So I never want to blame the players. I'm not going to get up here and say it was wrong for them to win, because these are players. They're playing their butts off. They're still trying to win. And you know what? They don't want to be part of a winless season. That carries with you for the rest of your life. You can go on. These players will go on to other teams and they'll leave in free agency, or they might even stay with the Jets and have success. But that mark will never leave you. You'll always be part of, hey, you were that 0-16 team on the Jets in 2020, right? It will always be there. The head coaches, it will always be there. So they were able to avoid that. And I'm happy for them. So I'm not going to sit up here and criticize that they should have lost that game. It's ridiculous that you're not going to hear that out of me. But I do understand the other side of it from the fan base. I'm strictly talking about the fan base here. Yes, if I'm a fan of the Jets, I'm mad. I'm mad that we won that game, because as a fan, you're just looking for the best thing for your team. And the best thing for your team was to lose that game. But the best thing for those players out there on the field was to win that game. All right? A lot of those players might not even be there next year. They're not sitting there saying, well, let's play bad so we can make this franchise good in the future, when I might not even be there. No, they're trying to collect their paychecks. They're trying to put out good film so that they can get signed somewhere else, or that they can get a new contract with the Jets. That's their job. So I will never sit up here and say they did wrong by that, right? I just won't. But what I will do is I understand it from the fan base side of things. I get it, and it's tough. So that's something. Now, how do the Rams bounce back, huh? Like I said, I think the Rams bounce back perfectly fine. It's an embarrassing loss. That's a loss that's going to be talked about, but I think they bounce back fine. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I put out a podcast. The title of the podcast was "The Rams Are the Best Team in the NFC." And I said the only thing stopping the Rams from going to the Super Bowl is who? It's Jared Goff. And the reason I said that was what we saw on Sunday. The way Jared Goff played on Sunday was inexcusable. It was inexcusable. And if he has even a playoff game somewhat like that, it doesn't even have to be that bad. Even if it's even close to that bad, they have no shot of winning a single playoff game. I don't care if you're playing the Washington football team in round one. You have no shot at winning a game if Jared Goff is going to play that bad. All right? Their defense was not the lockdown defense that we've seen all season. They just clearly did not show up for this game. They just didn't. So it becomes the question of, well, how do they move forward? Now they have to shake it off, and they have to go play their arch rival, Seattle, in Seattle. They beat Seattle once this year. Seattle is 10-4, and they've already locked up a playoff spot. The Rams are 9-5. Since the Rams beat Seattle once already this year, if they go into Seattle and win this game, they will be crowned NFC West champions. All right, so even after losing to the Jets, all of that can be pushed behind them if they go in and they beat the Seahawks in Seattle this week. The Rams have, since Sean McVay has taken over this job, the Rams have played Seattle very tough. They played Seattle very well. Their defense matches up with Seattle. One thing I'm going to really be looking for in that matchup, DK Metcalf versus Jalen Ramsey. The last time that these two teams played, Jalen Ramsey got the best of DK Metcalf. And I don't mean just the best. He locked him down. He really locked him down. And that was back in week 9, right? So now we're in week 16. Both teams are different. Both teams have, gotten better. They've had some mishaps, but they've gotten better. The Seahawks are 10-4. The Rams are 9-5. Back in week 9, DK Metcalf had 2 catches for 28 yards. DK Metcalf. Guys, you can't do that. If you want to be crowned as one of the best receivers in the NFL, you can't have 2 catches for 28 yards in a divisional matchup. He is going to look to redeem himself Russell Wilson, I can guarantee you, is going to look to target him as much as he can to help him out. But Jalen Ramsey's going to show up for that matchup just like he did in Week 9. And he locked him down. I want to see, can that change? DK, can you come out there and say, nah, I'm not going to have this anymore. I'm going to show you that I can go toe-to-toe with the best cornerback in the league. I want to see if he can do that because that's going to be very, very critical for the Seahawks to have a chance to win this game. All right, I think that the Rams have the edge because they have the better defense. Now, the Seahawks defense as of late has been much better, but the Rams defense are still by far the more superior. With Aaron Donald, with Jalen Ramsey, that pass rush, the cornerbacks have been playing great. So that's going to be one of the best matchups of the weekend for me. This matchup has one of the biggest storylines to it because it has so much weight on it. If the Seahawks win, they will win the division. The Rams will be playing for a wild card spot. If the Rams win, they will win the division. The Seahawks will be playing for a wild card spot. Very, very big circumstances on the line here. So that's going to be an awesome matchup. Now, we've got a lot in store for you guys today on this jam-packed Tuesday. So much going on. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive right into it. And I want to start off with the Steelers. The Steelers are falling and they cannot get up. What has happened to the once 11-0 football team? The team that we talked about possibly being able to go undefeated. What has happened? I'm going to tell you guys 3 reasons why this has happened to the Steelers. And one of them, I hate that I'm going to go this way. I really do, because I don't want to be this guy. I want to be the young, the hip, the cool guy in the media. But this one player is going to turn me into the old man, get off my lawn grump. And it's unfortunate. I don't want to be this guy, but it's come this point where I have to. Stay tuned. We will dive into what that is right after this break. Don't go anywhere. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, Kayvon at a jam-packed Tuesday coming at you. Here we go.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, Kayvon, as we enter segment number 2 on this jam-packed Tuesday edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, episode number 45 for myself, the big 45. Awesome that I've gotten to the point of putting out 45 episodes for you guys. Hopefully we make it 45 more. And I've loved every bit of it, and I hope you guys have as well. Reach out to me on Twitter at Kayvon_sports. Hit me up on the company page at GSMC_football. Either way, hit me up. I will answer, I will respond, and I will talk about your content live on air here, as we always do throughout the show. So we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about. We just started the opening part of the show, just kind of running down a little bit of, what the show's going to be about today. And then also, I wanted to jump right into the whole thing with the Jets losing and the Jets winning and the Rams losing. I kind of wanted to get that out of the way first. It was a big day. It was big news. It needed to be talked about because it really does set up an interesting aspect of the draft moving forward. Because listen to this, if the Jets did not win that game and they lost out, which I think that they probably would have if they didn't win that game, but you never know. We never thought they were going to beat the Rams, so they are playing hard. It's unlike the Jaguars. The Jaguars have been packed in. They just lost by 50 pretty much to the Ravens. They haven't won a game since the week 1 when they upset the Colts. The first game Phillip Rivers played in that Colts uniform. Clearly they were not ready. They were not ready to go because that Colts team has sparked since, and they've been a very sound and good football team. So that was kind of a fluky win for the Jaguars. Since then, they have not won since week 1. So they're packed in. You see, and I talked about this last segment, the Jets, these last couple weeks, yes, they've been losing, but they've been putting out effort. They were leading earlier against the 2 weeks ago against the Raiders. They were leading almost the entire game. Then the Raiders came back. Then the Jets took the lead again. Then they played Seattle very tough for the first half. Then Seattle pulled away after that. And then they weren't just beating the Rams this game. They were beating them bad. At one point, they were up 20-3. The Rams did come back, but they were not able to come back enough. The comeback fell just short. Jets won the game, and it's over, right? The Jets now have a loss, and because of strength of schedule, they will now fall back to that number 2 pick. Unless for some reason Jacksonville loses in these last 2 games, which I do not see happening. Again, Jacksonville has mailed it in. They have. It's just the truth. The Jets have been playing tough. They've been actually putting out the effort. Jacksonville is not the case. They're ready to book their flights to Cabo. They're ready to book their vacations. They probably already have. So most likely, this is how it's going to stay. The Jacksonville Jaguars with the number 1 pick, the Jets with the number 2 pick. That's why the draft now becomes interesting, because if it stayed the way it was, the Jets would have been number 1. They would have taken Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars are for sure taking a quarterback. They don't have the situation like the Jets where they have Sam Darnold. They're kind of into Sam Darnold. They kind of want to push it out and see what they can do if they put more talent, a better coach around him. But they weren't going to do that if they had the chance to get Trevor Lawrence, because Trevor Lawrence is so good, right? But now that they lost out on that chance to get Trevor Lawrence in all likelihood, do they try and roll it again with Sam Darnold? That's a question. The Jaguars do not have that question. No matter what, the Jaguars were going to take a quarterback. Minshew, Mr. Jorts himself down in Jacksonville, fun guy. The crowd loves him. He's a people pleaser for the crowd down there in Jacksonville. He's not the future. He's just not. He's not a good quarterback. He'll be a good backup in this league, and that's about it, right? So they were going to take a quarterback no matter what. So if it stayed the way it was, it would have been, we already would have known what the draft would have been, right? The first couple picks. It would have been Trevor Lawrence number 1, Justin Fields number 2. Now that it's mixed up, it makes the draft much more interesting. So we know Trevor Lawrence is going to go number 1. That's a check. Jacksonville should be happy. I know they all are. They're dancing right now. Number 2 becomes much more interesting, especially with the way Justin Fields has been playing as of late. It has not been very good. The 2 teams that he's played against that have been ranked this year and against good defenses or somewhat good defenses, he has seriously struggled. He has. Now, he can make up for all of that if he plays well against Clemson in the college football semifinals coming up on January 1st. We'll have to see. And obviously, look, when he gets to the combine, the scouts, the coaches, they're going to fall in love with his just pure measurables, his size, his strength, all of that stuff. Then they're going to fall in love with that. But he is not as much of a sure thing as Trevor Lawrence is. So the draft now, at least the top of the draft, becomes a little bit harder to predict. It's not as obvious. It's not as clear-cut. 1, Trevor Lawrence, 2, Justin Fields. No, now there's way more options to it. do the Jets take Justin Fields? Or do they take a different quarterback, a Trey Lance out of Dakota, a Zach Wilson out of BYU, who Steve Young just said the other day he reminds him of Patrick Mahomes. Now, remember, Steve Young went to BYU. He might be a little biased, but look, Zach Wilson has some serious, real tangibles there that make him look like a special quarterback. Trey Lance, he is a big, physical, running type quarterback that can also sling it. Do they take a different QB, or do they trade down? Do they say, you know what, we're going to roll with Sam Darnold. Let's trade down. Let's gain some more picks. Put a better roster around him. All of these questions are now going to be possible. If they do trade down, who trades up to get that second spot to take a Justin Fields? I know it sucks for Jets fans. I feel for you guys. You guys wanted that number one pick. You wanted Mr. Sunshine from South Carolina, Clemson, South Carolina, but it's just not. It's not going to happen now unless something crazy happens these last 2 weeks. And now it makes just the average fan, the media, us that love the draft, it makes the draft, at least the top of it, much more interesting. So I can't wait for that. Now, I want to move on here. We have a lot to talk about, and I want to start with this because this is our lead story, right? Our lead story of the day. We usually start with our lead story in segment number 1. I opened up the show, talked a little bit much like I like to do, went on a rant, blah, blah, blah. Got sidetracked. Decided because I was already headed down the topic of the Jets and the Rams, I'll finish that up and I'll start the lead story here at segment number 2. So let's start it now. What that lead story is, it's what's happening with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The free fall that is happening with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I want to be this, okay? Because honestly, this is one of the reasons why I love sports so much. Why I love the NFL in particular. The ability to sway and change our perception so quickly. It happens in sports all the time. It happens in all sports. You know, a team can start off hot in baseball, and as the season goes on, because it's such a long schedule, they start to kind of fall off, right? Or a hockey team, they get rolling early in the season, and then their lack of line depth, right? They don't have the strong third and fourth line like some of these other teams have, better teams have. They start to fall off as that long season goes on. You see the same in the NBA, right? Or vice versa. They start off bad, and then you see a team really start to come on late as their team starts to gain more chemistry, new coach, all that stuff. We see that happen all the time, right? But in the NFL, our perception can change and does change week to week. You know, you get to a point in pro sports when you begin to morph into something that is so problematic and something that is so counter to what you put out there for a large chunk of the season that it seems highly unlikely that you're able to transform back into what you were, right? Like, you guys can all guess who I'm talking about here. The Pittsburgh Steelers. What in the world happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers? And what I mean is we the first 11 weeks, we look at this team, our perception about them, our thoughts about them. They're a very sound, tough football team, the best defense in the league, the best team that can go up against the Chiefs. Why? Because they can score. They were scoring at will. They also can get turnovers on defense. We went through all of this. I did a whole show on why at that point they were the best team to go up against the Chiefs, because they have all of the things that you need to beat the Chiefs. The layout to slow down Patrick Mahomes or to beat him in a shootout. That was the whole thing, right? And then the perception starts to change these last couple of weeks. Like it happens all the time in the NFL, but it's really, really happening here. And the way this team has changed into something different right in front of our eyes, and as I just said, we see teams morph into different teams all throughout the season. But what we are seeing with this Steelers team, it's truly uncharacteristic. And the reason that is because of the franchise we're talking about, right? A legendary franchise that has always been known for winning, a great coach in Mike Tomlin, a future Hall of Fame QB in Big Ben. You don't usually see a demise like this with a franchise like that. So how do we dissect what is happening with the Steelers. How do we break this open and really get our hands dirty in there to understand what is happening? It's a hard one to dissect. It is, I'll be honest. But lucky for you guys, I think I have it. We have talked about a couple of times the loss of a couple of their defensive stars, right? And it's really starting to show up because of the liabilities in pass coverage underneath. That second level just gets exploited left and right in pass coverage, as we saw Monday night numerous times, especially that one touchdown, the one that Giovanni Bernard, he came underneath, makes a guy miss at the line of scrimmage, and the linebacker's trailing from, 2 steps into that route. It's over. Right away, that's a touchdown. They can't keep up. Ryan Finley then has enough patience and instincts, gives it to Giovanni Bernard. They miss a couple tackles. All of a sudden, it's 17-0 Bengals. So part of it is injury on the defensive side of the ball. That's not making an excuse. That's just being honest, right? I mean, it just is. And I told you that this was coming. I told you guys a couple shows. I said I still like the Steelers as a team, but you don't lose 2 stud, and I mean stud linebackers like Devin Bush and Bud Dupree and not lose a beat. That just does not happen, right? So that is a very large part of the issue. But that's not the only part of why the struggles are happening. And that's what I want to be clear of. That is a part of football. Injuries happen. There's no excuse there. It is what it is. But there's more to it. And I think it's 2 different things. One, well, technically I think it's 3 different things. But one, it's definitely related to football. And the other one, it has to do with attitude. It's this perception about the attitude. We'll get into that. But the first one is about Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben, is at this point and in his career where he's been phenomenal, right? He's had an amazing career. We all know how great Big Ben is, right? We all know what has made Big Ben great, though. That's the thing, right? Like, what does Big Ben do best? He sits in the pocket. He goes through his progressions. He will give you the ultimate pump fake or two. We all know no one loves to pump fake the football more than Big Ben. And then he throws to a guy, 30, 40 yards down the field, and he will throw a dime right into that dude's chest. That is what Big Ben has done his entire career. That is how Big Ben has become a future Hall of Famer. Well, Big Ben is not doing that anymore. Big Ben is getting the snap, and he is quickly, and very quickly, I might add, very, very quickly firing balls prematurely into spots that should not be thrown to. And, it was so interesting to me because Monday night, ESPN did a great job showing a camera view where you can see it from, behind Big Ben. You can kind of see it from an upper angle behind Big Ben. So you can see the routes being formed by the wide receiver and watch what Big Ben was doing. And when they showed that, they showed the version where you would see Ben try and force a ball into double coverage or into a linebacker dropping into coverage or whatever. And I'm sitting there and it's so obvious that he is throwing that ball way too early. It's like if you wait one more second, that wide receiver is coming wide open and you have the arm to get it there. That you clearly do have the arm to get it there, Big Ben. We know that. It's like if you just wait a little bit longer, the wide receiver will be open. It's what he used to do so great. Shoot, it's what he was doing earlier in the season when they were rolling. But for some reason, he isn't doing that anymore. It almost as if it feels like pressure, as if he feels like pressure is coming and he is about to get sacked, so he quickly releases the football. It's like he just doesn't feel like he has time to throw the football. And the Monday night broadcast crew did a great job pointing it out a couple times too. After Big Ben threw the ball too quick, they would show the replay and they would show he had all the time in the world. There was no pressure coming. There was no pressure at all coming his way. But for some reason, Big Ben was antsy. He was jittery. He was not patient. And it makes you wonder Why are you doing this? Why is Big Ben doing that? And why are you not doing what you've always been so great at anymore? Is he hurt? Really, that's a serious question. He did hurt his knee back in that Dallas game. And Big Ben has been known to play hurt all throughout his career. He is a very tough guy. So is he worried he is going to get hit or something and he's going to aggravate the injury even more, make the injury worse? I don't know. But I noticed that in previous games, and then on Monday night, it became really evident to me that from a football standpoint, Big Ben, maybe because he's banged up, maybe because his knees are banged up, he's hurt, I don't know. But he doesn't want to take hits anymore. And I see Big Ben turning into this quick trigger quarterback, which has never been what's made him successful. You know what I mean? And so with that being said, I have to put a lot of what is happening to the Steelers on Big Ben. I have to put a lot of the blame on him. So quickly, I want to play this soundbite of Big Ben after the game. This is Big Ben expressing his level of concern with his Pittsburgh Steelers right now.
I would say that I'm not consistent enough, which affects the offense because the ball's in my hand every play.
And I know you said before that your performance is not injury related. Mike Tomlin has said the same thing, but does it take a while to get the elbow warmed up, especially when you're playing in colder weather games like tonight?
Nope. What is the level of frustration and concern right now as you head in the last 2 weeks? High.
High. You heard it right there. The level of frustration and concern is high. And he was short about the elbow getting warmed up. I get all that, right? But you can just hear it, all right? He knows he's not playing well. And he knows that has a lot to do with it. So I think it has to I think it's injury related. I think it is. And I think he's not as comfortable getting hit as he used to be. He's older. And so the ball was coming out sooner and sometimes not where it's supposed to be. And how else do you explain them being down, 17 points like that and getting absolutely 0 points in the first half? 0 points to a 2-11 Bengals team who has not been very good defensively. And, when we think of Big Ben, what do we think of? If you just think of Big Ben, I'll tell you what I think of. You think of a tough QB, someone who is big, bouncing off of people, extending the plays, slinging the ball all around the field for 440, 500 yards a game, throwing it against the grain, dirty uniform, going into the locker room at halftime, having to get a shot to come back and finish the game. He is a tough guy. This is what has made Big Ben so great. He isn't Tom Brady, who has always had to have a clean pocket. If Tom Brady ever even felt a wince of pressure, boom, he falls down, right? And obviously that is why Tom Brady is still able to play today at 40-plus years old. But that's not Big Ben's game. That's not who Big Ben is or ever was. That's not Big Ben's MO. Big Ben's MO is he feels pressure. He's not going down right away. He's going to try and move a little bit away from that hit and sling that ball, right? So Ben isn't able to be Big Ben. That's it, Then he isn't going to be very productive. If he's not able to be Big Ben, he isn't going to be very productive. Now, we also have to be fair here, right? It's your boy Kayvon. I'm always trying to be fair here. So, it's not fair to put all the blame on Big Ben. This is a pizza pie here, all right? There's blame to go around. One big slice is going on Big Ben. I'd say half of that pizza is going on Big Ben. He's just not playing very good. Maybe he's hurt. I think he is by the way he's playing. But he's not playing Big Ben type football, and that's his game. It's either Big Ben type football or it's no football. If you want them to be productive, right? What's the next part of the problem? We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and I'm going to tell you guys the 2 other issues to this problem so we can figure out what is going on with the Steelers and if this is something we can fix. Don't go anywhere. You want to hear this, because this is when I have to go into I'm the old man, you're on my front lawn, and I'm going to kick you off. And I want to be known as, I don't want to be known as that. I want to be known as the young guy, back in the players, but I can't. I can't because it's gone too far. So now I got to pull out the old soul, the old soul in me, and I got to pull out the get off my lawn because enough is enough. Don't go anywhere. We'll finish this Steelers issue right after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. The GSMC Football Podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Kayvon. Hope everyone's having a great day. Thank you for tuning in to the show wherever you are, however you're listening, whenever you're listening. We really do appreciate you making us a little bit of your day, however long you listen to it. We really do appreciate it. Tell your friends, tell your family members at GSMC_football, at Kayvon_sports. Reach out to me about what you guys want to talk about. Week 16 of the NFL is here. College football bowl games are starting. College football playoffs is set. A lot of controversy going on there. We will dive into all of that. But I want to pick back up where we left off, and that's with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the downfall of this team. What is happening? 11-0 start, a team that we were talking about possibly being able to run the table at one point, really seeing can they go undefeated. The last 4 or 5 weeks, they have just played bad football. They were able to sneak away from about 2 wins, and then it finally started to come back and bite them. It started with the loss to Washington, then they lose to the Bills, and then they get the all-time low, and they lose to the Bengals on Monday Night Football. A Bengals team that they have beaten, I think it was like 12 times in a row. They haven't lost to the Bengals. It's just a team that they've dominated in their history of the franchise. It's just the Bengals don't match up well with the Steelers, and they've always been able to pound them. And everyone was like, this is a get-right game. They're going to go into Cincinnati, and they are going to just pound them. And I thought so as well. I almost posted big money, placed a big bet on that game because I thought it was for sure going to happen, but I held back just because I wasn't confident in the way they were playing, and I'm very glad I did because it was ugly, and it got ugly quick, very quick. So the question is, what's going to happen? How do you fix it? They have 2 games left. They're home to the Indianapolis Colts, and then they're at the Browns. Can they get things right before the playoffs? Because I'll tell you what, the way they're playing right now, they will not win a football game. They won't. They won't win a single game. And they've had an easy schedule, so maybe that 11-0 start had a lot to do with their schedule. Or maybe they were just playing much better football. And I think it's a mix of both. And I think you can look at the easy schedule, but to me, they were a very good football team weeks 1 through 9. And then after they started to lose those injuries, after they started to lose some players to injuries, things started to go downhill. and they haven't been able to turn the corner since. And we just talked about one. I said there's 3 problems. One of the problems is their injuries, right? Devin Bush, stud linebacker, tore his ACL. Bud Dupree, stud linebacker, tore his ACL. You don't lose 2 very good linebackers like that and not miss a beat. It just does not happen in a team sport like the NFL, like football. It just doesn't happen. It does not happen. They were always going to lose a beat, and I told you guys that if the Steelers end up falling off, if the Steelers end up losing early in the playoffs, it's going to be because of that. But now, other things are happening where I'm saying, you know what, if they lose, it's not just because of that. There's much more that goes to it. And as I said, the other thing was Big Ben and the way Big Ben is playing. And I said Big Ben deserves a lot of this blame because he's just not playing well. And maybe he's injured. I don't know. But he's not playing good enough football. He's not playing Big Ben football. He's being frantic back there. I don't even know if that's a word, but but it sounds cool, so I'm going to use it. He's very, very shaky. He's antsy. His feet are moving. He's not able to just sit back in the pocket and let those wide receiver routes be formed so he can dice up the defense. He's not able to do that. For some reason, he's releasing the ball too quick. He's not being Big Ben. And maybe that's because he's hurt. Maybe he doesn't have confidence in his receivers because they've dropped so many passes. I don't know what it is, but that's going to have to change if they want a chance, right? That's going to have to change if they want a chance to turn this ship around. Now, what's the other issue? The other issue, and you know what? This could actually help Big Ben out a lot, a freaking run game. They have zero threat to run the football. They cannot run the football. They literally cannot run the football. So there are no plays open downfield because every defense, every person in the stand, everyone watching on TV, just like me and you, knows that they are going to throw the football. Why? Because they can't run it. They just can't run the football. I have 2 stats for you here, and they are both horrendous, and both the fatal death nail in the coffin for the Steelers this year, who are going nowhere right now. Based off the way they're playing, they are going nowhere. This will not be, and by the way, they might lose the next 2 games. They're playing the Colts, who are good, and they're playing the Browns, who are good. They are in trouble if they don't turn this around. But the 2 stats are this. Number 1, they are bottom 5 in pass block win rate. So they are bottom 5 there. And then the next stat, they are bottom 5 in run block win percentage. So they're not able to keep defenses on their toes. For those that don't understand what that means, they're not able to keep the unpredictability of their offense, right? It's all super predictable. So if there's no threat to run the football, well, then the defense just isn't scared of you, right? This is the NFL. This isn't high school football. You have to be unpredictable. You just have to be. So that's what we have so far. We have Big Ben, who isn't playing like the great Big Ben we all know, and 2, they have no run game. Which the thing that makes sense here, number 1 and number 2 tie in together, right? Because yes, Big Ben doesn't look like himself, but maybe if he had a run game, it would open things up for him. Because there's no run game, ladies and gentlemen, the defense, all they have to focus on is covering and rushing the passer. When there's a run game, those guys up front, that defensive line up front, they have to look to see if they should rush the passer at this moment or if they need to follow the running back and stop the run game, right? Well, when there's no run game, what are those guys on the defensive line doing? They're putting their hand in the dirt and they're immediately taking off once that ball's hiked. They're not even worried about the running back. They're saying we're going right after Big Ben and we're not looking at anybody else. And that's what they're doing, and it's getting to Big Ben because they have zero threat to run the ball. They just can't do it. And it's an offensive line issue. It's James Conner hasn't played well. Benny Snell kind of started to get things going last night, but it still was not a good run game at all. They should be able to run all over some of these teams that they played recently. They weren't able to run over the Jaguars. That's a team you should easily be able to run all over. They weren't able to run on the Ravens. The Cleveland Browns, they ran all over the Ravens a couple Monday nights ago. They weren't able to run against the Bills. They weren't able to run against the Bengals. They have zero threat of running the football. So number one, of Big Ben not playing well, and number two, of not being able to run the football, those two tie in together, and it causes a big mess, which brings me to number three. And this is a mix of football-related and attitude-related. And this is when I hate to be this old man get off my lawn, but JuJu Smith-Schuster. What in the world is going on with JuJu Smith-Schuster? Like, come on, man. First of all, Von Bell of the Bengals laid out JuJu with a fantastic, clean football hit. And I mean, it might have been the best hit of the season so far. It was clean. It was not dirty. It was a great hit. And I guarantee you, a lot of players that are not on these two teams and we're just watching the game on Monday night had a big old smile on their face when they saw that hit happen. Because all season long, JuJu has been so juvenile, so immature, doing this TikTok dance on the opponent's logo before the game. Look, you don't do that stuff. You don't dance or stomp or do anything on the opponent's logo. You just don't. That's their turf. Do whatever you want on your turf, but that's their turf. And the fact that Von Bell hit JuJu right near that logo, right near center field, well, it was kind of ironic to say the least, right? It's kind of symbolic. But seriously, JuJu, what are you doing? This is my problem with JuJu. And this is when I become that old man on the get off my lawn thing, right? Because I like the crap talking. I like the antics. But this is not warranted. JuJu does not deserve to be doing this stuff. What do I mean by that? Well, he's an okay player, but he's just okay. He's not a superstar. He's not even close. Frankly, you're a middle-of-the-pack wide receiver. That's what you are. You haven't been a good receiver really since AB has left, Antonio Brown, and that's a fact. So they can't run the football. Their defense is compromised due to injuries, and now you have players like JuJu doing whatever nonsense they want. And look, I like Mike Tomlin a lot. I really do. He is a great coach. But let's remember, he has let things get loose on his watch before. It happened with AB, Antonio Brown. AB did whatever the hell he wanted, and he let it get out of control. And now he needs to tighten this ship up. He needs to tighten the ship up because, and that's, I'm saying SHIP, not the cuss word. All right? He's got to tighten things up. Mike Tomlin, it's time to cut the nonsense. Tell JuJu we're losing now. It's not fun and games anymore. Cut the crap. You're putting a target on your back, and even worse, you're putting a target on your teammates' back. And, I hate to go here with JuJu, but even with Le'Veon Bell, Mike Tomlin let both of those guys do whatever they want. But you know what? They showed up on the field every single Sunday. Every single weekend, those two guys, Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, put up numbers. Mike Tomlin let those guys live the way they wanted to because when it came game day, they were giving you 1,500 yards and 8 to 12 touchdowns every single year, right? Top 3 wide receiver and top 3 running back at the time when they were on the Steelers. They were producing left and right. You're not getting that from JuJu. You want to know the last time JuJu Smith-Schuster had a 100-yard receiving game? Back when AB was his teammate. Like, what? You haven't even had a 100-yard receiving game since then, but you're dancing on opponents' logos? This is what, let me give you some more stats here. JuJu Smith-Schuster is 12th in the NFL in receptions. He's 44th in yards, and he's tied 15th for touchdowns. That is not a superstar. Since AB has left, JuJu Smith-Schuster has fewer receiving yards than Danny Amendola, and he only has 9 more receiving yards than Hunter Renfrow. And this year, Russell Gage, my guy from Atlanta, who is a good receiver, but he is a number 3 receiver, has more receiving yards than JuJu does. Come on, bro. Come on. You're not good enough to do what you're doing. And you know what, JuJu? I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you for turning me into this guy. I never wanted to turn into this old man, get off my lawn type of I don't like antics, I don't like fun guy, because that's not the case. But you specifically, what are you doing dancing on other teams' logos? What are you doing? First of all, it's disrespectful. It really is, okay? That's their logo. We saw earlier in the year, we saw the Titans and the Ravens get in a big team scuffle because of that pregame. The Titans were all over the Ravens logo, and John Harbaugh didn't like it. We've seen this stuff happen many times. We remember T.O. back in 2000, scores a touchdown against the Cowboys, runs all the way out to the star and does that, and he gets hit for it, right? Like, you don't do that to other teams' logo. You just don't. But if you are going to do it, man, you better at least show up on the field. You better be a superstar. And JuJu Smith-Schuster is the farthest thing from a superstar right now. He is a middle-of-the-pack wide receiver. He is not producing good enough numbers. And all he cares about, to me, is being a TikTok star instead of a football star. Because he is one of those, but it's definitely not the football star. That is a fact. Get your stuff together. Mike Tomlin, tighten things up. Let's see how this team can turn things around. Because right now, it's just not working out. The injuries have finally piled up. Big Ben is not playing good football. Either he's hurt or he's not trusting his receivers. JuJu Smith-Schuster is a distraction, and it's not a worthwhile distraction because he's not making up for it on the field. He's not even getting close to making up for it on the field. And I get it. The Steelers, the Pittsburgh fans, they love him because he's fun, he's young, he dances, he does all that stuff. He's a social media guy. He's relatable to the younger fans. But man, oh man, if you want to get paid, if you want to be in a historic franchise for a long time, you better start putting up numbers, JuJu, because you're not doing that. Deontay Johnson is miles better than you. Chase Claypool is a rookie, and he is miles better than you as well. You got to tighten things up. We'll see if the Steelers can turn it around, but right now it's not looking good, and they have 2 games to do it. And you would think that if a team started 11-0, at least they would already have won their division, so it's okay. Well, not so fast. They made the playoffs, but they have not won that division yet. The Cleveland Browns are sitting there at 10-4, 1 game behind the Steelers. Now, what the Steelers do have going for them is they beat the Browns early in the season, and they beat them handedly. So they have the head-to-head, but they play one more time. And this Cleveland Browns team is a much different team than they were back when they played them earlier in the season. Much different team. The Steelers were a much different team when they beat up on the Browns 38-7 in week 5, right? Much different team. Now the Browns are heading up, and the Steelers are heading down. If the Steelers lose to the Colts on Sunday, then week 17, Browns versus Steelers in Cleveland will come down to the division. Can you imagine that? If the Steelers lose to the Colts and go on a 4-game losing streak after starting 11-0, then Sunday, week 17 at Cleveland will come down to the winner takes the AFC North. Wow. Who would have thought we'd be saying that in week 16 after we saw the 11-0 start that the Pittsburgh Steelers started the season? I mean, we were talking about Big Ben being an MVP candidate. 30 touchdowns. He was taking care of the football, not throwing too many interceptions like Big Ben usually does. And since then, things have fallen apart. The defense isn't as good, but the offense is not helping them out. The defense at least has a real excuse. They lost two superstar in the making linebackers in Devin Bush and Bud Dupree. Now, maybe the offense, maybe Big Ben is hurt, but he's playing. And at the end of the day, if he keeps going out there and playing, we're not going to talk about, I think Big Ben was, from years from now, I think Big Ben was hurt towards the end of that 2020 season. No, we're going to talk about how he didn't play good football at the end, and he wasn't able to get his team in the right spot to make a legit playoff run. This team still has enough talent. Now, eventually the injuries really do pile up, and I'm telling you, when you lose two guys, and I know I keep saying it, but it's so true. It's just when you can make do with losing one guy, right? When you lose two guys at the same position, not only does it create a huge hole, but it takes into your depth. See, that's why the Steelers were so good, because they had depth. They had Bud Dupree. They had Devin Bush. They also had another guy that was doing really well. They went and traded for Avery Williamson, who's a good linebacker out of the Jets. So they had a lot of depth. But then when you lose both of those guys, it completely cuts out your depth. You don't have that depth that you need to make that Super Bowl run, and those things start to add up. So I don't know if they're going to be able to get over the hump for that to make a Super Bowl run, even if they get the offense right, and Big Ben starts to play like he was earlier in the year, and he plays like the Big Ben we all know, and the future Hall of Famer Big Ben, and they get the running game going, and JuJu stops the antics. That will help them go on a playoff run. But I don't know if at the end of the day, it will be good enough to beat a Chiefs team or even a Titans team the way they're rolling right now. That's stuff that we're going to have to see. But for right now, we can't even talk about a playoff run. We can't even talk about a Super Bowl run until they just get this stuff fixed. And we're going to have to see if Mike Tomlin, Big Ben, JuJu, and the boys can get that to happen. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, Kayvon. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, much more to do to finish out the show. Dwayne Haskins once again is in the news, and it's not for good reasons. What on earth is wrong with this kid? And much more as we come down to the stretch of the final 2 weeks of the NFL season. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
This is the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, Kayvon. We are coming down the final stretch of the show, quarter number 4, segment number 4. Put up the 4 fingers as always, and thank you all so much for joining us today, wherever you are, however you're listening, wherever you're listening. We really, really do appreciate you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to join us and listen to the great GSMC Football Podcast. What a week we have of sports. College football playoff is set. Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Ohio State 3, and Notre Dame 4. A lot of controversy there. A lot of who should have been in, why should they have been in, who got left out. As always, that's why they love the 4-team playoff. That's why everyone talks about the 4-team playoff, because it's fun, right? But it's getting to a point now. We went through this on a show before, so we're not going to go through all of it right now. And you guys can always go back and look just, at any of your podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever. You can go and listen and find the show where we talked about how they need to expand the playoffs. And I was not always for expanding the playoffs. I never fully was into that because I thought that it might diminish the point of the regular season, which is why college football is so great. But as I started to think on it, and this year really proved to me that it's just it's a mess. It's a mess, and it needs to be expanded. Teams are getting left out when they shouldn't, and it will not diminish the playoff at all, because the regular season at all, because these games will still be very, very important to get into the top 8 or the top 6, however they want to do it. Because if you can get into, you're still not going to be able to lose 3 games and get into it. You're still going to have a 1-loss and maybe a 2-loss season, right? Like, that's just the case. And then also, it allows some of these undefeated non-Power 5 schools to get in. Look, it's the underdog story. That's a huge part of sports. We love sports because we love to see the underdog beat Goliath. It's just that is really the history of big-time sporting events. When you see something like that happen, the college football playoff does not allow us to get a chance for that to happen. And even if the playoff happened and it expanded, maybe we don't see it. Maybe the 1 never loses to the 8. Like in college basketball, it took all the way until last year to have or 2 years ago to have a 16-team beat a 1 seed. But guess what? It finally eventually happened. And in college football, at some point, it would happen again. It would happen for that sport as well. Maybe it's not the 8 versus the 1, but maybe the 7 upsets the 2, right? Maybe the 6 upsets the 3. It brings a lot more conversation. It does. I know some people think, no, it won't, because we already will know the teams that get in. No, that's not true. Because if you make it a 6-game college football playoff, or even a 5-game college football playoff where the 1 seed gets a bye, right? You make it that, and then you can say, okay, the Power 5, all 5 or so never mind. It would be a 6-game college football playoff, and you would say this, right? Every winner of the Power 5 conference goes in. So right there, you set a goal, which makes the regular season matter. You win your conference, you're in. Okay, so that makes that regular season very, very important for the Power 5, because if you lose a certain amount of games, you're not going to get into your conference championship. So then that doesn't leave out the Pac-12, the Big 12, stuff like that. So every conference gets their championship in. Then it leaves room for one more team, whether that's the second best team in the SEC or whether that's a non-Power 5 school, right? I would love that. I also would love an 8-team, because I think an 8-team gives even more of a chance for an underdog story to happen or a non-Power 5 school to get in there. Cincinnati had a phenomenal season. They had a great resume too. They played some tough teams. They went undefeated, wire to wire undefeated, and they're not getting rewarded for that at all. I mean, what? Yeah, they get to go play Georgia in a bowl game. Georgia doesn't even care about that bowl game. That's what the college football playoff has done, which I love the college football playoff. I never want to go back to the BCS. The BCS was awful. It was terrible. But the college football playoff has completely destroyed these awesome New Year's Six bowls, right? Where we have some really good matchups this year. North Carolina versus Texas A&M. Texas A&M was the 5 seed. They were one team away from getting in. In my opinion, they should have got in. I'll get to that in just a minute. But they didn't get in. So now they're going to go play North Carolina, and they're probably not even going to be pumped up about that game. Cincinnati plays Georgia. That's a fun game to watch. Imagine if that was for the playoff, right? And winner moves on to play Alabama or something like that. Like, that makes it fun. Georgia started out the season not very good. They got blown out by Bama. Then they had a quarterback change. And ever since then, they have been hot. One of the best teams in the country. But because they started the season on a tough note, they have no shot at making the championship or making the college football playoff. It just, I feel like we're making it where it's all about the committee. The committee makes the decision, and it shouldn't be that way. Yes, the committee should make the decision, but we shouldn't put it where they're keeping a team out like Texas A&M. I mean, think about this, guys, ladies and gentlemen. If Texas A&M, all they did was lose to Alabama, so you're telling me they run the table and they have one loss and it's to Alabama and they don't make it? What else can they do? I mean, that's like the perfect situation. You lost to the best team in the country. You won every other game in the SEC, the best conference by far. You went on a 7-game win streak in the best conference by far, and your one blemish is a loss to Alabama, but you don't get in? I mean, we're punishing them to losing to the best team in the country. I get it. It was by a lot. It was by like 40. They got destroyed, but their only loss is to the best team in the country, and they didn't make the playoff. What is that? That's not fair. In my opinion, Texas A&M should have went in over Notre Dame. I get it. Notre Dame is a very powerhouse program. It's a historic program. It's a very popular program. But they got their doors blown off by Clemson. And I know that the committee says that they don't pick based off the matchups, but if they got the doors blown off by Clemson, you're telling me that Bama's not going to beat them either just as bad or worse? Of course they're going to. They're going to blow them out. It's not even going to be a fun game to watch. And that's no disrespect to Notre Dame and Brian Kelly, who is a phenomenal coach, and all of those players who have put in so much work. They went undefeated, and they should get rewarded by that too. But they shouldn't, if it's because of this stupid system, they shouldn't have been in. If it was a normal system where we had 6 or 8 teams, then yes, they deserve to get in. But under this, Texas A&M deserved to get in over them. They just did. You don't go 7-0, 7-game win streak, win every single game except Alabama in the SEC and not get in. It just doesn't happen. But there's so much wrong with the college football playoff, and this year really just brought it out to me to show me that we need to expand it, and I guarantee you in a couple years it will be expanded because a lot of people are not happy about what happened. And also, we're going to get Clemson, Alabama again for the title game, most likely, which, look, I love that matchup. I think it's a great matchup. I think it's the 2 best coaches in college football by far, Dabo versus Saban. I think it's the 2 best teams, the 2 best programs, the 2 best recruiting classes. Like, this is the best of the best. Like, these are the 2 teams you want, right? But it does get a little old knowing that before the season, it was going to be Bama-Clemson, and now here we are at the end of the season, and it's Bama-Clemson. Like, it's a little bit more fun when you can try and make predictions, and they don't always come true, right? Like, if it was this easy in all sports, I would be a genius. Like, I would look like a psychic. I might as well go to Vegas and bet on this, because that's how it always ends up in college football. You don't want it to be that easy, and that's what it's becoming for 2 of these teams, and Ohio State is always in the mix of the Final Four, and then throw in either Oklahoma or a Georgia, and that's it. You know, and a Notre Dame here and there. There's no room for shock. There's no room, it's shock at the end of the season where we find out who the 4th team is, but it's really not that much of a shock because it's either Notre Dame or Texas A&M. It's not, think about it, if we had an 8-team playoff, that 8th spot literally could come down to like 7 teams. It really could. I mean, think about it right now, okay? If right now we had an 8-team playoff, okay, in the college football rankings, You have Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Ohio State 3, Notre Dame 4, right? Okay, after that, Texas A&M 5, Oklahoma 6, Florida 7, Cincinnati 8. Then, below them, you've got Georgia at 7-2, 9. You got Iowa State at 8-3. You got Indiana. You got Coastal Carolina. You got North Carolina. And that 8th spot would have so much conversation between should Georgia be in or should Cincinnati be in? A Cincinnati team that went undefeated or a 2-loss Georgia team that is absolutely rolling right now. That's a fun conversation to have. Or Coastal Carolina, 11-0. They went undefeated just like Cincinnati, but they actually got 2 more games in. Should they jump into that 8th spot? Right? Like, these are all, and then think about it in a normal year. When you have everyone playing the same amount of games, that conversation becomes even tougher. And then it's like, Florida's 8-3. They put up a very, very good fight against Alabama in the SEC championship game. Should they really be 7, or should they jump up to maybe that 6th spot so they avoid Clemson? Ohio State, Florida, round 1. Clemson, Oklahoma, round 1. Alabama, Georgia, or Alabama, Cincinnati, round 1. And then the best of the best, 4 versus 5, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. They would actually play it out, so we would have known who really deserves that 4th spot. Like, that's a dream come true to me. And I really hope that the committee realizes this. I think that a lot of people in college football are starting to say, okay, this is just too much. There's too much really hate over it. And we need to move and expand the playoff. And I hope that ends up coming true sooner than later. Now, when it comes to these 4 teams, what I'm looking for most in these matchups is how are these players that are about to be drafted perform? I mean, think about the players that we have. Mac Jones, going to be going to the NFL. Trevor Lawrence, going to be the number 1 pick. Justin Fields was already all year penciled in as the definite locked-in number 2 overall pick. That's not the case anymore for numerous reasons. One, Ohio State, Justin Fields, has not been playing very well lately. He has 2 games this year against 2 decent to above average defenses, and he has looked really bad. Really bad, especially this past Saturday against that Northwestern defense, that really good Northwestern defense who Pat Fitzgerald, head coach Northwestern, really should be a candidate for a lot of jobs, a lot of NFL jobs, because he has done a terrific job with the NFL. I don't know if he wants to leave Northwestern or not, but he has done a really, really good job with a program that did not have a lot of winning in their history before he took over it. And since then, he's gone to 2 Big Ten conference championship games in the last 3 years. So that's pretty impressive. We'll see if he gets some interviews. But he had Justin Fields looking awful. And now, now because of the shaky play by Justin Fields, it starts to become questioned, is he really the lock-in number 2? And then another reason why it's not for sure anymore is because the Jets lost. And we went over this a little bit in the first segment, but now that the Jets lost, the draft becomes a lot more interesting. A lot more interesting. It's not a sure thing, pencil in the first 2 picks. If it stayed the way it was before the Jets won, before the Jets won, it would have been Trevor Lawrence number 1 to New York, and then Justin Fields number 2 to Jacksonville. Now that the Jets won, Jacksonville moves up to that 1 seed, to that 1 spot, number 1 overall pick. Definitely not the 1 seed, number 1 overall pick, which means they're taking Trevor Lawrence. They're taking Mr. Sunshine, one of the best prospects I've seen in a long, long time, right? But now what do the Jets do? Do the Jets really like Justin Fields, or do they like a Zach Wilson out of BYU? Someone that Steve Young has raved about, called him kind of like a Patrick Mahomes type QB. Or do they like a Trey Lance out of Dakota? Or do they want to roll with Sam Darnold again? Do they want to trade down? They already have 2 first-round picks. Do they decide that they want another first-round pick and they trade down, roll with Sam Darnold for another year, and build around him? Get more for the roster. See, because the Jets won, the draft becomes so much more interesting. It's not a pencil in 1 and 2 anymore. It's just not. Yes, Trevor Lawrence is going number 1. He's going down to Jacksonville. He's going to fit in there great. Jacksonville's throwing a party right now. They just got their guy for the next 10 plus years, as long as they don't screw it up like the franchise they have been. All right? Number 2 brings so many more options. And if I'm the Jets, I am not sold on Justin Fields right now. I have to do a lot of research, a lot of scouting to make sure that he is our guy. You got to do that before you move forward. You have to. And if you have any little question that he might be a bust, or he just might not be that good, or he might just be okay like a Sam Darnold, you can't take him. You cannot take him. You have to then change up your plan, look at some of the other QBs. If you like them, you can get them later on. You can get them at number 4, number 5 overall, maybe even 6, 7. Trade down, get some assets, and then take a Zach Wilson. Maybe take a Mac Jones if you like a Mac Jones. Take a Trey Lance. Or trade down, take a Kyle Trask. Trade real far down. See, all of these are options now for the Jets. And I get it. You're sitting there and you say, well, the best option would have been getting the number 1 overall pick and getting our guy Trevor Lawrence. You're right. That would have been the best option. But unfortunately, that's not what's going to happen. It's just not. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. I am your host, Kayvon Izami. We got a couple minutes left here before we end the show. I want to bring up the jam-packed football schedule we have this week. I mean, it's awesome, guys. We have a Christmas Day game, 4:30, Minnesota Vikings heading to New Orleans, a game that has a lot on the line. New Orleans has now lost 2 in a row, and the Vikings are still in playoff contention, even though it's going to take a lot for them to make it because they just gave up a crucial game at home to the Chicago Bears, who have been rolling lately under Mitchell Trubisky, and really, head coach Matt Nagy deserves a lot of blame for the way this season has gone. He had no right, no business. He had every right, but he had no business benching Mitch Trubisky after going 3-0 and starting the season. He just didn't. And him doing that ruined everything. Yes, Nick Foles played well for a couple weeks. Then everything went downhill. When Mitch came back, it was already too late. He had to build back up his confidence, and now he is playing great. And this would have been how it would have been if he kept Mitch in all season. So Matt Nagy deserves a lot of blame there, but because the Vikings lost, it's going to be hard for them to make the playoffs, but technically they are still in it. So it's a very big game for them. It's a big game for the Saints because they don't want to go on a 3-game losing streak. They want to get back on the right side of the win column there. Can they do it? That's what we're going to have to look into. All right, so we got that. Then Saturday, we've got a triple header. The Bucs at the Lions. If Tampa wins, they secure their first playoff spot since 2007. Tom Brady looking to do that for the Tampa Bay organization. Then the afternoon game, 49ers at Cardinals. The 49ers are just limping to the offseason. They've had so many injuries. They're going to have a lot of questions going into that offseason. Is Jimmy Garoppolo their guy? For the Cardinals, they're now back on the winning track. 2 games in a row. Kyler Murray looks like he's healthy again. They're 8-6. They're looking to win so that they can get one step closer to making the playoffs and holding off the Chicago Bears, who are making a late rally. And then for that final game, the Miami Dolphins at the Las Vegas Raiders. Do you guys remember about 4 weeks ago, I said on this show, I said this is going to be a game that's going to decide a lot of playoff positioning and playoff spots, because both teams were playing really well there and both teams were 6-3. Now look at us. The Dolphins are 9-5. They're still rolling, and the Raiders have completely fallen off. So this game, it still has a lot of implications in terms of the Dolphins' playoff seeding. You know, the Ravens are right behind them, so they really can't slip up at all. And then the Raiders are technically still in it, but it's going to be a long shot. So it's not as important as it would have been a couple of weeks ago if the Raiders didn't fall off, but it's still going to be a very interesting game. And also, Marcus Mariota is going to get the start again, which will be very fun to watch how he plays. So really fun weekend. And then, of course, your normal Sunday games. Sunday night, you got 2 10-win teams, Tennessee Titans at the Green Bay Packers. 10-4 Titans, 11-3 Packers. Can't wait for that. And then Monday night, your AFC East winning Buffalo Bills at the New England Patriots. What a weekend of football, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Kayvon Izami. This is the GSMC Football Podcast. We thank you so much for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show, write a nice review. That really, really helps us out. Also, if you can, please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Thank you. Have a great night. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We will talk to you again on Saturday. Happy holidays. Enjoy your time off. Thank you.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.